October 4th, 1999. Her eyes shot open. She could feel a sharp pain in her head. Darcy Duke began to wonder what was going on. She scanned her environment, but she couldn't recognize anything.
Where am I?
She mused. She stared at the pod-like structure from which she had just emerged. Everywhere seemed to be in ruins. She had no memory of who she was or where she was coming from. Smoke filled the entire place, but she didn't feel any discomfort. She then stepped out of the building and into the street, but everything still seemed strange to her. Several men in firefighting uniforms rushed towards her, shouting atop their voices as sirens blared in the distance. There were bullet holes scattered all over the place as bodies were being carted away into several ambulances. Something big had happened here, but no one seemed bothered about her as she snaked her way away from the crowd. She strolled past a mirror, but stopped short when she spotted a reflection of herself. She looked just like everyone else, but she didn't feel the same. She felt different. "22 years later. Darcy? Those were her footsteps. I'd recognize them anywhere.
Yes, Morgan.
I was right. She was the one. You know, we need to spend more time together. I'm gonna grow old and weak, but you're still gonna be here."
You jerk. You just have to remind me about that every time.
She walked in, strolled towards the living room, and planted a soft kiss on my cheek.
I love you, Morgan.
She whispered. "How do I tell anyone that my wife is a super hot alien?" I joked.
I'm not an alien, Morgan. I'm not even sure what I am.
Darcy smiled. She had gotten used to living with the reality that she was different from everyone else. Ever since she had emerged from the strange laboratory in Arizona over 2 decades ago, she'd not aged a day, and she rarely got hurt by anything. I was glad that she had told me the truth about her past. I loved Darcy dearly, and I was pleased that she knew that her secret was safe with me. We had fallen for each other 6 years ago, and nothing had changed since then. Darcy suddenly let out a loud groan. "Darcy, what's wrong?" I exclaimed. "You're having those migraines again, aren't you?" I rushed towards her and embraced her as she collapsed into my arms.
I remembered something else.
She said.
It was a short memory, but it's just like the others I've been having recently, and it doesn't look like Earth. Do you think I'm an alien, Morgan?
She asked me, but I wasn't sure what to tell her. I don't care, Darcy. I love you, and that's all that matters. Come on, I have a surprise for you. I rushed towards the couch where I was earlier seated and pulled out 2 tickets from underneath the cushion. "We are going on a vacation!" I let out as Darcy lunged and leapt into the air with glee. I loved to see her happy. I smiled and embraced her tightly. "I'm never going to leave you, Darcy," I assured her. The location was just a few miles out of town. Darcy loved to travel, and this time, I was driving. We'd packed our stuff and we were now en route to our vacation site. It was going to be another wonderful experience. Darcy was seated beside me in the car, the radio turned up full bore. She swayed to the rhythm of the song, nodding her head to the beat. The highways were nearly empty, which made me drive at a rather incautious speed.
Are we there yet?
Darcy asked curiously. "Yeah, we're almost..."
Morgan, watch out!
Didn't notice the car, which had broken down right in front of us. I stepped on the brakes immediately as my Ford F-150 left the ground and somersaulted twice before returning to the earth. Time stood still for a moment as blood trickled down my forehead, but I was fine. I shot a quick glance at Darcy. She was unconscious. Unconscious? She so rarely got hurt. I crawled groggily out of the car, staggered towards the window where she was seated. I immediately noticed that she was trapped in her seat. I had to get her out. "Darcy!" I called out, and her eyes immediately shot open. She instantly gasped and stretched out her right hand, pushing me as far away from the car as possible, as the car instantly burst into flames and exploded into the air. "Darcy!" I exclaimed in shock. Incoming cars stopped and parked by the side to help out in any way they could. "Someone call 911! I could hear someone scream in the distance. A normal human being should not survive the explosion, but Darcy was not a normal human. To everyone's surprise, she emerged from the car unscathed as everyone watched in shock. "Yo, what the fuck? She doesn't look hurt," an onlooker said, obviously in utter disbelief. My fears had finally become reality. The news was out. Police trucks rushed in from all sides, and the onlookers soon began to talk. Darcy knew what had happened, but she couldn't rewrite the wrongs. She ran towards me with fear, clearly evident on her face. "We need to get out of here before the media arrives." She understood what I was trying to say. We made a beeline for one of the ambulances and requested to be taken to the hospital. Even though we tried to pretend as though nothing had happened, we knew that they had all seen it, and they were definitely not going to keep quiet about it. 2 days had passed, and the news of Darcy's strange emergence was everywhere on the news. I had awoken to a soft knock on my front door and instantly walked calmly towards the entrance when firm hands grabbed me from behind, covering my mouth, pulling me away from the door. I tried to turn on instinct. "Shh." That was all the masked man said with his index finger over his lips. "They're going to kill you," he continued. Between him and the people at the door, I wasn't sure who to trust. They were both strangers, and he wore a mask. "They want your wife." Okay, he had my full attention as I stared at him curiously. "Follow me." He was still speaking when a loud bang interrupted the silence, as my front door immediately gave way. Someone had just kicked it down. "What the fuck?" I exclaimed. "Come on," the masked stranger uttered as he instantly pulled me away from the incoming threat. Loud shots were fired towards us as we fled out of the area. Darcy had heard the shots and joined us too. I could hear the thud-thud-thud of a helicopter in my backyard. Something insane was happening. A few men trooped in from the direction which we were running towards and began to shoot at our previous interlopers. Their uniform pattern was similar to the masked stranger, so I guessed they were with him. We were led into the helicopter as the intense gunfight continued behind us. I wasn't sure what was happening, but we both didn't have enough time to think and process what was going on. Even Darcy had been silent throughout. We jumped on the helicopter and were soon ascending into the sky, speeding away from our home. We landed in a strange and deserted area after flying for several hours. We both didn't know where we were, but we had no choice but to cooperate with our new friends. We were led into a dilapidated building which contained a massive hidden bunker. We stepped on board an elevator and began to descend deep into the earth below the strange building. Hopefully, we would get some answers soon. It was a lengthy descent, but we soon came to a sudden halt. Darcy gasped in shock as we stepped out of the elevator. She recognized the symbol that was engraved on the wall. A man strolled into view. He seemed to recognize her. "How long has it been, 20 years, he began. "Look at you. You've not aged a day." I exchanged glances with Darcy, and she wasted no time in asking him questions.
I woke up in a strange lab. Who am I?
"It seems as though you lost your memory. All right, I'll tell you everything you need to know before the government gets here. January 1999. We intercepted a strange distress signal from space, but whoever we had heard was not human, so naturally we decided to check it out. A few weeks later, we found the debris of what looked like a crashed spaceship with you lying inside. You eventually awoke, and it took all that my men had to take you down. You were in a complete state of fury. You were nearly berserk, but we managed to sedate you with a strong anesthesia. We brought you to our laboratory for further experimentation, but, and I must stress this, we didn't want to harm you. The government found out about you, and since they knew about your, unique qualities and special abilities, they wanted to clone you, splice your DNA with that of ours, and replicate your genes. The experiments continued to bear little fruit, and we soon had a disagreement. The government wanted us to dig deeper, go further to get results. We had managed to clone you as human, but to make replicas with your ability, more extreme measures would be needed. We refused. I shot a quick glance at Darcy. She was perplexed by the man's explanation. I didn't want to believe his words, but somehow we all knew he was telling the truth. So, Darcy is an alien after all, I thought. A heated fight soon ensued, and we had to smuggle you into our own private facility. But we couldn't keep you hidden for long. They found us. They stormed our laboratory, tearing it to pieces. But I had managed to keep you safe and released you from the containment chamber and took away your memories. I decided that it was better for all that you were lost to us. I'm not sure where you came from or how you got to Earth, but this is as much as I know, and I hope that I've been of help. After the clash, I returned to the laboratory and I discovered that you had managed to escape, so I began to work on an experiment that would transform you back to your alien form and restore your lost memories. And I'm happy to say, after almost a decade of research, I have come out with a breakthrough. But I had to wait another decade to find you. I'm glad I did. The strange man was still speaking when a quiet clink interrupted him. A grenade had landed right in our midst. Everyone dashed for safety as a loud explosion erupted. The men who had attacked us back home had returned, and this time they'd come in with a bang. I finally began to piece together the strange puzzle about Darcy's past. The strange man dashed for a gun and shot at Darcy, and in a flash, all her lost memories came crashing into her mind. She stared up towards the oncoming threat, and something began to change within her. She could feel it. Whoever I was staring at was surely not Darcy anymore. She transformed into something else. Her skin began to slough off and was immediately replaced by a blue covering. Her eyes shone like sapphire. I had never seen a being of such beauty and magnificence. Her features were not dissimilar to ours. She was much taller and had a prominent tail. Even the intruders stopped short and did a quick double take. She didn't give them much time to think anyway, as she instantly lunged towards them, taking them all out with unnatural speed. She was too fast for them, and in the blink of an eye they were all on the floor, writhing in pain as the rest retreated quickly. I didn't know if she would still remember me. Darcy shifted her gaze in my direction.
I know who I am. I have to go home.
Those were not the words I had been expecting. How will you do that? Will you ever come back? She walked slowly towards me and planted a final kiss on my cheek.
I can send out a signal. They'll find me. I'd return just for you. I promise. I will always love you, Morgan.
Those were her last words before she left. As I stared into her sapphire eyes, she seemed more beautiful than ever. It's been 2 months since she left. Every night, I go outside and stare up at the stars, waiting and hoping for her light. I know she will return for me.